Well, hello, everybody. How are y'all doing on this here happy Monday? Fabulous day it is. And man, what a busy, busy freaking morning. In fact, I can say the whole weekend was that same way. And I hope you had a good one, whatever that weekend may have been. As I get in here and hit that button and hit that, y'all know this, you know the routine. It's just yeah, and right in the midst of kind of like decorating and you know, so then you gotta love it, man. It's life. I don't know what the dead do. I thought about this many times and often wondered, do the dead get bored? Do they have a job? I mean, do you have, what is your purpose in death? Do you have a purpose? I don't know. Just think about it. Let me just speak favor over us all because favor is prosperity. Monday is prosperity day. Been a long time since I've been able to come on Monday. I mean, yeah. Glad August is gone. And so favor be upon us all. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Today is Lynn and Mai's 13th anniversary. This time 13 years ago, we were in Hawaii. Yeah, that's all I got to say. So it's fun. And yeah, looking to 13 plus more years, my dear. So anyway, how are y'all doing? Let's see what's happening. Hey, Gaia. By the way, Gaia, love the suggestion. I don't know if any of you have Netflix, but if you do, watch the miniseries Chaos. Guy, I mean, that thing is like got so many uh correlations to today. And for myself, I look at this and you can see how in the West, the West thinks that, we're the ones that invented religion. The West thinks we're the ones that invented philosophy. In the West, we think we invented religion. We are so far down on the list. I mean, we're so far, it's just absurd. And Christianity, is an Hellenistic religion. It was never the original religion. And more importantly, when you watch the series, you can really see what went on here. I mean, think about it, folks. Rome. Now imagine if the United States knew that it was going to collapse. And we are, but but let's say we were really had enlightened leaders. We don't. But let's say we did. And they began to figure out saying, okay, so how do we save this thing? We can't, we know it's not going to last in its current state. So how do we perpetuate going forward that the world won't see it as a government? So what's above a government? Religion. Everybody digs religion. I mean, religion is like, philosophy and politics and yeah. So let's come up with an idea of how we can make the United States government God or incorporate it to where it would be God. And that way, thousands of years in the future, they'll be worshiping us and we'll be keeping our same government, but they won't know because they think that this is somehow holy and that this is how reality really is. Yeah, not. I mean, imagine. And that's what happened. We live today under Roman law. It is just a fact. If you're in the Western world, you live under Roman law. It could be argued, I guess, that we could extend that back, into the forms of Greece. Hell, I guess we could walk it all the way back to Alexander the Great. I mean, he's the one that, figured out that, hey, there ain't no one religion. Never has been, never will be. But if we combine them all together, then they'll think that they got the original. never realizing that it's just merely a hodgepodge and just a potpourri of all the others. And it worked beautifully, may I add. So what's happening? Nina, how are you doing? I need a coffee for this. You're gonna need more than that, hon. Guarantee you. Just roll one and just you know, you know what to do after that. Gilbert, how you are, you brother? Man, out there in Colorado, strange things going on out there, and it's still hot. Grace, how are you? It is always a pleasure to be with everyone. Emperor Rex, hello, good to see you. Now, guy, every time I see this, it's like, at first I thought it was like, well, have a V8. No, you know where this comes from? This comes from worshiping all hail Zeus. So, all hail Zeus, you know. Lori, good to see you. Um, Nita, we'll get into what's in their hand. That's a good question. DC, good to see you. Lost in space. Hello, off the hook. Aloha to you. As I said, that's where Lynn and I were. So we got married on a Saturday, and then the next day we did the whole helicopter tour, went over. Yeah, it was quite something. Eric, good to see you. Hello, Lilith. How are you, my love? Good to see you as well. Seth, hello. Good to see you as well. Michelle, Mr. Floyd, how are you doing? Got some great emails I got to get back to. Spent most of the weekend with my lovely wife, and you know how that is. Jet, good to see you. And Loretta, how are you as well? Scotty boy, what's up? Man, you made so many comments on the thank you, man. You jacked it up in the ratings. Thank you, Gaia. I'm feeling rather dapper today. It's just one of those days. It's like, yeah, So thank you, darling. Kent, good to see you. Bonnie, how are you? CC, good to see you as well. And as I tried to make sure, Jackie, hello. Thank you, Nina. That is very kind. Shirley, good to see you as well. And Rick, how are you, brother? Good to see you. Okay. So this is a really big day. And Colleen, thank you, dear. Um, do you just live out into the mountains? I often think, from the emails that you send that sounds like you really have this serene view. And I'm gathering it's in the Smoky Mountains, right? Every time I think of Smoky Mountain, I think of Ronnie Millsap. Smoky Mountain rain keeps on falling. And if you ever had the chance to see Ronnie Millsap in his day, uh, put on a great show. Great show. Saw him right there at the Wyman Theater. Hmm. Yeah, I lived in Nashville for a while. That's where I met Brooks and Dunn. Sony Records, EMI, they were all clients, and it was a good time. Go, how are you doing? All the way from Croatia. Red Honey, how are you? So, yeah, Nashville was a cool city. I lived there back in the early 90s, and it when all got grown up. People's Where the hell did all the people come from? Lots of them, no doubt. So, but again, Colleen, thank you for the interesting talk. Uh, thank you, Kent. What can you say? Yeah, Rick's got it. That's it. See, Denver had Rocky Mountain High, and then Millsap had the Smoky Mountain Range. So, yeah. There's a stranger in my house. I don't know if you've ever really listened to Ronnie Millsap, but after the show, go check them out. Some great songs. George Strait came out with a new album. Gotta love my George Strait. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll, a little bit of jazz, a little bit of classical. I am not opera. Never opera, I know, is like a play done to music or some interpretation thereof, but you know, and it may be because a lot of it's in Italian. I don't know. What do y'all think? It's just anyway. It's time to have a sip of Bengal spiced tea today. Mm-mm-mm. Hey, Chloe. So Um, and Mark Cuban's an ass. Just gotta say that. What? Oh, what an asshole. But anyway, yeah. Chloe said George Strait first concert ever. Oh, that's very cool. I like George. I tell you what, he is this singing troubadour, no doubt about it. Hmm. You know, Amarillo by morning, Amarillo, and I like the rodeo. I really do. So, they took his horse there in Houston. There you go. So, what else is happening? Um, so getting back to this, the picture, Colleen sent me um an email on this, and it's really very accurate because if you remember, we examined the Michelangelo painting, and we know that cat, knew something. It ain't in the Bible today. They took that shit out. You can't have that stuff. That this divine feminine is the true enemy of the Western God. It's just a fact. Someone recently was challenging me and saying, God loves women. Ha! Your head's up your ass, buddy. And I didn't say it that way, I don't mean to be crass on that, but you know, you say you read that Bible? Show me a female angel. Show me where, even if you take the Roman interpretation of the Trinity, right? That's where it came from. Well, actually, it goes further back than that, but they incorporated it into the story. Show me where the divine feminine is there. God is a homosexual. It's just the way it is. And I know that just riles some people, not people here, but you know, and by all the evidence, depending on which point of view, either Jesus was gay or hid his homosexuality really well. I mean, come on. You're hanging out with 12 dudes all the time? Sure. Mm-hmm. Unless they're smoking some really good ganja and dropping some really good mushrooms. I mean, come on. And then the other side of that equation is that, well, Jesus had a harem. I mean, Martha and Mary, benefactors, right? Rich, as Hall and Oates would say, they're a real rich bitch. They were the rich bitches, you know, Martha and Mary. I mean, Lazarus, those, but, that was his sisters. We really don't know where they got their money. I mean, there's a lot of story. And then again, if you really read what the documents say, Mary, the supposed mother of Jesus, well, she had other children. So the whole virgin story, just, anyway, we can get back on that. And again, it's the degrading of the feminine. It really is. But the thing about Mary, and this is in The Search by Dr. Charles. In fact, I can see the book right over there because he went out to say, all right, what's going on here? Too many schisms in this religion, too many interpretations. No one never met the artists, the authors, so no one really knows because they had 400 years to perfect this religion. 400 fucking years. Think about this. And so Mary, whose uncle was the cat that let them put the body in the sepulcher, well, that was his grave, his thing, and you had to be fucking rich to have a tomb. Low class, no, they're going to throw your ass out on the sheep gate. And but here's the thing. So her uncle, he controlled all the mining interest from the Jews and the Roman Empire. Like Paul. The story is, if Paul really lived, Paul was a rich motherfucker. This cat didn't, it's kind of like Kamala Harris saying, well, I grew up, pretty poor. Your ass. I mean, Paul's family, they sold all the tents to the Roman legions. So you got Mary's uncle, and the story is that she took Jesus after Joseph, who apparently died in. Um, the story is the supposed real story is died on the construction site, on the job site. But then again, I'm thinking about this thing with Joseph. So he knew that Mary was fucking really rich. Well, she wasn't personally, but her uncle was. So, and then the story is after he died, she took the Jesus or whatever the hell his name was. I don't know what it is. No one knows, apparently. And took the boy down to Egypt and then took him up to Britannia. Well traveled, well versed, I would say, right? But hey, Lauren, what's up? Good to see you, Blazing River. Hello. So, Pengredy, good to see you. Dave Sullivan, what's up? So, and Kent brings out, and that's a good observation, Kent. The problem with these stories that the Romans made up of this religion, they didn't know about the Samaritans. Uh-oh. King James didn't know about the Samaritans. Uh-oh. Now what do we do? And that's the problem. Because, when George Smith unearthed those original tablets, and now there's over 200,000, we know that this whole thing is, excuse me, much more contrived than ever believed before. Because the Samaritans, again, 2,000 years before the first so-called Hebrew. Oh, that's right. Who was that dude? Well, he was Samaritan. That was Abram, right? So where's this God that Abram made this deal with? It wasn't over in Samaria, unless it's what, Enki? Enyo? Maybe a prankster? But we think this is God. And it's sacrilegious for someone like me sitting here, anyone sitting here and questioning the authenticity of this God. This ain't no fucking God. It's Jeff Goldblum. Oh, come on. If you've seen the series, if you go watch it, Chaos, I mean, on Netflix, I mean, Goldblum plays the perfect role. He's Zeus, and the way that they bring in all the gods, you can see them incorporated into the modern day religions. I mean, the same thing with Islam. That wasn't the original God. I mean, but yeah, look at the world today. And the thing that gets me is that the West wants to ignore the Chinese, who have a long history, maybe even longer than the Samaritans, and the Hindus, India, long, glorious history. See, that's where Camilla Harris messed up. She pissed off her gods. Her mother was Hindu. And boy, when you got the Hindu gods pissed off, cursing your ass, there ain't no place to run, man. But anyway, and so we here in the West, we look at this as like, that's those people, they don't know what the hell they really believe in. How fucking ignorant is that? I mean, seriously. So off to say, seriously, check it out. I mean, it really is. I mean, when you see this, I think I watched like 5 episodes, guy, and you know, uh, and it's loved, and I love the soundtrack, by the way, great soundtrack. But it really brought out this thing. So getting into this, hey, Lady Ellie, how are you? Happy camper. There are 9 planets, not 12. The menorah used to have 7 until Neptune and Pluto. There they come, walking down the street. And then the menorah was changed to whole 9. The planets are not the apostasy. We're so messed up in the West. I mean, we don't know what the hell we're talking about. But oh, we certainly do it. Ginger, you're on episode 7. All right, you see. And Ginger, hey John Price, how are you, brother? So Lauren, tell me, what's your take on it? I mean, is it not? It's hilarious. And I don't know who wrote this, but they really did do a good job. I thought that the way that they incorporated it into a modern um, theme was brilliant. I mean, yeah. And it kind of also has that flavor of the American Gods, but much more better done. And if anything, you know, we're borrowing all of their stuff. So if copyrights really mean anything, then the Western religions are in deep shit because, they literally plagiarized their religions and their gods. I mean, I can remember when the epiphany hit me that the Jesus is really Zeus, and Zeus has a father. But the thing about it is, it's like, well, yeah, would make perfect sense. Why wouldn't the Romans put Jesus in there? Because they knew, you know, that's where the whole religion was. They knew it. So, um, says the Jews use the menorah for the planets. Happy camper, I don't know that. I mean, there is so much there is so much out there. I remember it, and it's very interesting as I look over the research library of mine, is that, you know, like the Gospel of Mark. I made a post on academic.edu on the fact that there's no proof demons exist. None. There's no proof that aliens exist. And the thing about it is, we are such suckers for anything to believe in. We're so like, well, I got the hook in there. And once you get hooked, it's so damn hard to get unhooked. Painful too, isn't it? But like the Gospel of Mark introduces a new subspecies called demons. They got more power than us. They're invisible, but yet they can walk among us. They can possess us. They can make us do things that we don't want. It's like, whoa. But the thing about it is, there was never no Mark that wrote that book. Uh-oh, now what do we do? Um, so anyway, Rick says, I'm in the tiny brain club. Hey, listen, the way I look at it, Rick, sometimes I only see myself as this singular cell, It's like I'm looking around going, okay, they're telling me all this shit, but I got no way to fucking prove it. None. Yeah, anyway, what's that? Preliminal says life should be good for everyone. This is logical to me. A place that is good, where everyone loves and cares and has much fun and creativity. Yeah, I don't have a problem with all that. And you know what it really comes down to is that you can have that, but you have to create it up here because there's a lot of BS floating around out there. Y'all know. Ginger says, I'm studying the hierarchies right now. That can get interesting. From which particular point of view, Ginger? I'm curious on that. Hey, Max Vision, give an entity a name and you give it power. Bingo. That's why, R. Wayne Steiger, he's a fucking god. I mean, he's just fucking fantastic. The son of a bitch creates, and I mean, it's the same thing I can say with let's see, Shirley. She's a god. She creates. Oh man, I mean, that woman's like, woo. Chris, same thing. Well, Kent, the reason why they couldn't put the Book of Enoch in there is that because the Book of Enoch gives a whole different view of what the Father is. I mean, we've read that. We've read the Book of Enoch here. And if that's the fucking Father, Holy shit. I mean, that son of a bitch crazy. No way I want to be associated with that. No way. Uh, Dave says the only proof that demons exist is when people bring them out in me by trying to control me. There's a lot of truth to that. I mean, if you really look at that, Dave, in a sense that, what are demons? Personality traits, right? It's what angels are, personality traits. Yeah. Um, Yes, Happy Camper. We know in this group, we know that there's 3 books. We've covered them. Yeah, yeah. Dead inside, six something, not working a job in the afterlife. Now you see, that's what we talked about right here. What do we go into a job? I mean, do they say, here comes Joyce, and now what are we going to do with her? Unless you believe in the whole reincarnation thing, which apparently that's what Hades is about. There is no classical hell. I mean, they just do that for mind control, but apparently hell is where you go to be reborn. But I just got to say this. How freaking one-dimensional is that? If the earth is the only thing that we get reborn into, at some point in time, you just get fucking tired of that. It's like, seriously. I mean, if all I had to look forward to was to come back here. I don't know about y'all, but there are a lot of assholes in this world, which tells me there's a lot of assholes over in the afterlife, if the afterlife really exists. It's like that bumper sticker I saw in Vegas back in the first time when I was going out into Vegas, late 70s, Tropicana. Says, yeah, Jesus loves you because you're an asshole. Nobody else does. And so it says, I thought hell was turning 50. Oh, no, 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 B, come on. Joe Max says hell and death is here. Yeah. Yeah, it took a while, Dave. Took a freaking while. So let's check this picture out. Because it's one of those iconic things that, so here this is on the Cathedral of Notre Dame, Adam and Eve and the female serpent. So a lot of people want to know what that is. Looks like a penis, doesn't it? But I think it could be said it's actually the fruit. If you look at this here and you look here, and isn't it odd how the tree is covering the genitals of both Adam and Eve? They're not wearing them, but it's almost as if the tree is covering them, which I thought really bizarre. Now, I don't know what this fruit is, because Lilith, or the serpent, the devil, Satan is female. Lucifer is female. The only enemy of God, the Bible God, is the divine feminine. He hates the feminine. Hates it, hates it, hates it. Remember, we covered this. Genesis, the 3rd chapter. This God never breathed the living soul into Eve. And so you have to ask yourself, so if Satan is Lucifer, well, which is Lilith, so this is Lilith, the serpent. So who screwed Eve? Cain. Cain is not in the Adamic bloodline. So Cain had the bloodline of Eve, which means that Cain had the bloodline of who? Lilith? And if you look at how the artists sculpt this out, I mean, that's a face of endearment. It's a look of adoration coming from Lilith, the serpent. And we know it's female. She's got great tits. I mean, just have to be honest with you. Now, Michelangelo told us in his rendition that we know that she had two tails in his picture. And again, if you just go and really look at this, so this is really interesting when they're holding the fruit of whatever this fruit is. And there is such other detail to this. I mean, again, God couldn't figure out how to cut hair or keep a beard off. I mean, I don't know. So tell me what your interpretation is. I just found it odd that the fig leaf, which again is this myth, how the tree almost seems to be alive. That's right, because it's what? The tree of knowledge. Knowledge is ever living. I don't know. I just find it very interesting. You know, often wonder, so is Eve a blonde here? Is that what we're seeing? So anyway, let me know what you think. It's one of those interesting little tidbits because no one, and here's the other thing. Don't the bodies look like children of Adam and Eve? They don't look like adults, do they? Because, you know, if you stop and think about this, so if this Adam character was like created like that, right? Um, well, so how did they know how to take care of human children? I mean, if they weren't children, how would Adam and Eve, when they, you know, had coitus, consummated the relationship, which, by the way, Lilith had to explain to Adam how it works, because Adam kind of looked at Eve like his other half. You know, he said, why would I have sex with myself? And thus now you know where fuck you came from. But anyway, how would they know? I mean, think about this. If Abel was in fact the first, which is not true because it was Cain, but in any case, who gave Eve and Adam the manual? Well, this is what happens to humans when they come into this world. And if they in fact gave birth to a human, that was a first of its kind. Now, I don't know if that was really the intent here. But again, the bodies look to me to be more adolescent in nature than adult. So go figure, huh? Just saying. Um, well, I'm glad that someone's having a good time off the hook. That's exactly the point. Uh, so it seems a little touchy-feely. See, there we go. But hey, listen, let's be honest. The only way the human race got started was by incest. You got to be honest. Brother and sister were, you know, saying, "Hey, man, you look really good." Well, yeah, you look really good too. You know, I mean, you get messed up in the head when you start thinking about this because you're going, well, incest. So if that was normal for the pre-Adamic world, I mean, I'm just, you know, speculating here. So now they're like, So when did incest become not good? You know, bloodlines today, they keep it in the bloodline. Incest is still the in thing. It's fucking biblical. How are you going to argue with me on it? Joyce says, keep it all in the family. That's how the elites live. Hello. You know, John says the garden was in Alabama. um, Stephen, that's cool. Looks like a pronoun nightmare. Isn't that the truth? Yeah, And you start thinking about the human race and you're going, whoa, 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 wait a minute, wait a minute. So we're just a bunch of incestuous, bitches and bastards. I mean, no, we don't want to think of that. We're the top of the of life. Sure we are. Um, gives "Hey sis" a whole new meaning, doesn't it, Scotty boy? But hey, you just examine the religions. If there was just one and then there was another, and then the two got together and they had one, and so, and I'm thinking about Eve. I mean, wow, there was a lot of coitus going on. That's all I got to say. I mean, that woman was pregnant all the time. I mean, whoa. I think that's absurd in itself. But anyway, and so you're hoping for a girl. I mean, you're rolling the dice. Come on, girl. Let's hope it's a girl. That was the problem with the Nephilim, The Nephilim and the Raphaim, they had plenty of males, but they didn't have that many females. That tells you how fucked up like China. I grew up in the era where China killed girls. Now they have a problem where they don't have enough females. Well, there you go, screwing with Mother Nature. And I love this audience. I mean, boy, this is you really have to be a mature level to really, have this this group, because we are like freaking. I love it. I love it. I love it. Um, yeah, and it gets all this whole thing into the womb. But if you believe the story, Adam never came from a womb. Adam and Eve didn't have belly buttons. I mean, and then you get this whole thing about this, umbilic cord. I mean, it's like, well, hello. It's weird. Really weird. Hey, Grace, what's up? Eric, you're right. These are legit questions. I mean, if you're going to die, and we all are, well, then you better question what your beliefs are. The problem is, you see, this group goes where not even the angels dare, because you start questioning this and you're going, someone's not telling the truth here. I mean, even if you say that human logic is flawed, okay, I ain't got a problem with that, but at least it's logic. And somewhere within that logic, then the flaw would then yield to whatever you have left, right? Right? Hmm. Um, Mariano says, I think consciousness doesn't belong to any race. When we return back to our true form in the spirit dimension, then we remember who we are. We've talked, yeah, it's one of those things. And it depends on a society's culture. For the longest time in America, God was, if you go by this, the current one is that apparently God's a Republican. Um, but anyway, the culture defines what you believe about the afterlife. That's why I love pagans. You study the pagans, I think they had it right. It wasn't a question about the soul. It was really the question about the essence, the energy. We can see it in the elementals, in the elements around us. We're a part of that. That's why I tend to believe that I'm more spirit than I am a soul. And there's no real proof that we have a soul. I think there's plenty of proof that definitely says that we are spirit if we are anything. Remember, there's that cockamamie story where uh, well, I could give a few names to this here so-called God. So he breathes into Adam and Adam becomes a living soul. I don't know, but that sounds a lot like the pod people. I mean, that's like a blowing into a virus. It apparently fundamentally changed who this creature was. Speaking of Adam, because if Adam exists before he had this thing contaminate him called a living soul, then this fundamentally changed him, which means no matter how you slice it and dice it, he's not the original. That's a whole problem with the salvation story of a savior. You know, for 50 years, I bought the story. Thank God I'm saved. You're going to hell, but I got the golden ticket. Thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you. And forgive me of my sins, God. I claim the blood of Jesus on me, a blood cult. That's a spell. That's how it works. You go up and you make that confession. You're confessing a spell. But anyway, that's how I looked at it. You know, I didn't have anything to worry about. I didn't really care if it was a spirit or soul. I had the ticket. I had Willy Wonka's. I had the golden ticket. And so that was, you know, settled it for me. It's like, okay, well, what do you do in heaven? I really don't care. You know, the fact is, I'm going into heaven. But the problem with heaven, when you study heaven, heaven is a contained area. Now, it has dimensions. Well, why would a spirit want to go to a defined place? I mean, the freaking universe is big. So you've got this confined object. It's a cube. Book of Revelation says it's a cube, gives the dimensions, says it's coming down to Earth, the mothership, which means it's finite in the amount of souls it can hold. What happens to all the rest? Weird shit, man. I'm telling you, it's just weird. You don't have fun. I'm reading some of the lines here. Hope God didn't have a bad breath when he breathed in. Just say, think about it. It's the whole thing. So what was Adam before then? Well, we know Adam was the second creation. Now that follows the Epic of Gilgamesh, which follows the Nimanzog of her experimentation in developing Adam, a man, an Atom. So we know in the first book of Genesis that apparently whoever that God was, he left, wasn't powerful enough to stop the asteroid from hitting Earth. Isn't that odd? These gods say that they're all powerful, but they can't seem to do shit. But anyway, so this first group says that this thing, this god, or whatever the hell it was, just geneticists, said it created both the male and the female. Now, from a biology point of view, that's very interesting. Now, how did that happen? If we take God literally, then God is a hermaphrodite. This God truly can fuck himself. Yeah. Anyway, so the story says that they didn't have a soul. No story about having a soul breathed into them. Do you know I studied that fucking book for and intently? Remember talking to Jeff Doherty on this, and then years ago when we did our Sunday show, is that it never freaking occurred to me, you know, that there were two different sets of humans here, and that this first set didn't have a soul. And it says that they were perfect. There's no fault found in them. Until the freaking asteroid hit. And that kind of goes with the whole Göbekli Tepe thing. We know that the people of that time saw this thing coming. Then we get the ash, because that's the Hebraic word in Genesis, the second chapter. The earth is covered in ash. Okay, so now we got to go and do some serious terraforming. And that's where it gets so confusing, because when I was in Bible school, they said, well, the first chapter was basically the overview, and then you get the second chapter, which just basically begins to redefine what the first chapter. That's not true at all. It's not what it says at all. It was a complete terraforming job. And the thing that's so odd was that Adam was here, or whatever this thing was, before there was ever the female. Well, that's just weird. And then it gets really weird, because then you could say, well, it was like God didn't have a problem with Adam with bestiality. Adam could coitus with any animal he wanted. And it said he couldn't find a suitable mate, which implies that I guess Adam was out there. And we get that story from the Bronze books, the Collen Bible, where the Egyptians kind of said the same thing about man. Man was out there fucking all the animals he could find until the woman came along. And then she seduced him. And once he lost that mojo, the animal kingdom said, I ain't gonna have anything to do with you, man. You're contaminated. Now, I know this is some very deep talk for some people to hear, but it's just the way the story is. If you read it, it's there. I mean, it's weird, isn't it? So this would imply that God is, and it's amazing, because, the Bible teaches you're supposed to restrain yourself from carnality, from sex. Don't touch yourself down there, as we teach our children. And so we immediately put it into their heads that sex and reproduction is somehow ugly, somehow dirty. But yet, the story is very plain in what's going on here. So I often wonder, if Adam was having sex with all these animals, did he even get pregnant? I'm assuming he was fertile, right? I'm assuming he didn't need, the pink pill or whatever, blue pill. And I'm just wondering, just go with me. And so as we get into the mythology, particularly the Babylonian mythology, then Egyptian, and even in the Hindu religion, half human, half animal. Now, was that the result of Adam, the Atom, having intercourse with all these other animals? And to think that if they got pregnant, then what did they birth? That had to be a wild freaking place, man. That's all I got to tell you. I mean, seriously, wild. That just blow my freaking mind, because that's what it implies. Don't take the blue pill, Ellie says. Silver Bullet, how you doing? Makes you wonder if the Egyptians were with their mix of animal and man. I mean, it's not only in the Egyptian, I mean, it's virtually in every society that these stories of the Minotaur, the half man, half goat, half, that's what Baphomet is, half goat, half human. And if Adam was a god and he's out there screwing all the animal kingdom, I mean, then these offspring would then worship him as God. Now, this gets complicated, because you see, no matter what you read, folks, this. I've got books that we're going to get into here. They don't talk about this. That, not even the fucking book of Enoch. They don't want to talk about this. But if the story of the fallen angels, the 200, having sex, intercourse with human females produced an offspring of which the God in heaven said, hey, I didn't have anything to do with this. Those bastards ain't mine. And then we read in the book of Enoch that these so-called dead Nephilim and their children walk the earth and they can do everything they want. They're not judged. There's no punishment. So let's continue following. So if that is true, then if Adam was out screwing everything that he could find in the garden, I mean, come on. Because isn't that what that God said there in like the 10th chapter? That's why you're going to wipe out the world. Why? There was contamination of the bloodlines to genetic lines, which one could probably deduce. There were a lot of weird creatures walking around. Now, did they have souls? Because apparently we know that the demons, if you follow that the demons are in fact the Nephilim, the fallen angels, that they have a part of us. We apparently, this thing is so contagious that it takes into the afterlife. And that these beings, these giants, they had a half soul, a half human. That's why they hate us. I mean, that's what the book says. Maybe having a soul is a curse. But still, it just makes you think, right? It's like, well, what the hell was going on here? And then if they died, was death prepared before life? We had this debate many times, and everyone has a different point of view, but still. So what came first, life or death? Seems like death was the actual reality. So where did they go? Well, they just didn't disappear. They just didn't dissolve into nothingness. No. So either they had a spirit or they had part of a spirit and part of a soul. Now, my study in demonology, it never came to that, but maybe I ought to write a book on that because that makes sense to me. I mean, you have these grotesque creatures out there, right? And maybe there's some real truth to that. I mean, if they were part human at one time, would make you understand why many would be bipedal, while many would have a face, some sort of orifice, you know, whether it's a mouth or whatever. I'm just saying. Hey, Stephen. Stephanie, how are you doing? Thank you. Grace, it's right. Even now, it's about bloodlines, groups. Yeah. I mean, the story is that the royal family is not human. Well, they've got human in them. They've got something else, too. I mean, this is where we get into, you know, the stories of the reptilians. Humans are more reptilian than they are human. And then you get the whole thing with simians. So is this a result of this original cat who had this thing given to him called a living soul, but he's out there having intercourse with other species? And wow, I mean, think about this. Because if you buy the story, the legend, right, we were just seeing the serpent as female, and that apparently before this genetic war, they were bipedal, walked on two legs. I've shown you pictures of artists' renditions of that. And so is that what really happened? I mean, because in the second book of the second chapter of that book of Genesis, you know, the female is brought into the equation. Now, isn't it interesting that the female was actually grafted out of the male? So it still implies that if that's the case, then that it now we have um, a new genus of our species because it was apparently male to begin with. There was no female. Then we have the female. And of course, if you study on this, you know that woman is really from the womb of the man. There was never three ribs. It was literally Adam had the ability to self-replicate. And I know our geneticists are close to coming to that as well. Do you know, by the way, that they have made such breakthroughs in genetics, folks, since the advent of discovering the human genome? Do you know right now, if you have the money, that there are cellular processes that you can start your body into that will allow you to live to well past 200? Because we're realizing all disease is cellular base. So if you can get into that level of the genetic code, imagine. But I think we were already doing that. So it still gets this wild thing that there wasn't this female, unless Adam had tits. I don't know. I don't think so. He'd have been preoccupied too much. So, and it said, in fact, that when this female came about, which is, I'm still, it's ambiguous as to how this happened, but boom, there she was. And it makes you think, well, okay, so how did she look at things? It's weird. We never take her point of view. And that's why I enjoyed so much. And we're going to revisit the Liber Lilith again. That's why I adore Lilith. I mean, she endured so much from this asshole. And then I'm thinking, okay, so you've got a planet now that have half breeds of human, animal kingdom. Animal kingdom's big, and wow. I mean, what a freaking place that had to be. It says every mammal starts in life in the womb as female. And there's a lot of why is that? Because it tells me, Desiree, you're right, that they lied to us from the very beginning. I often wonder if Anu, if the gods truly exist, that they were primarily female. The male serves very little in the full scheme of things. I mean, even when the genetic code is being transferred, it's transferred as female. Now, the Y chromosomes and what have you come in and determine then, if you're going to be male, which still tells me that the feminine is where the power is. Creation did not come from some male. Creation, and creation is still, it never stopped. I was telling an old Christian friend who now has written me off, I'm deceived, by the way. Yeah, the devil has completely deceived me. I've forsaken my salvation for a lie. Yeah, but it's like, oh, really? Okay. But still, that it seems that the male had very little to offer. And it seems that when the male came into the situation, everything got fucked up. Everything. That's why I wish in this country we had a competent female candidate. Kamala Harris is not competent. She's not qualified. But I have no doubt one day we will. A bright woman who far advanced in her thinking than any male counterpart. And because if you go back in history and you look at some of the greatest societies that were built, they were built because of the queen. A beehive does not have the male in there as the queen. No, it's the queen. And there can only be one. Hello, Lilith. Anyway, yeah, Scotty Boy says, well, we offer up the seed. Yeah, I'm often wondering about that, but you know, again, we've gotten to that point where we know that our species, what we need is the egg. For some way that the seed can be generated outside that maleness. But then again, I digress. Grace says, like the sand through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. Isn't the truth? So, wow, it's 1 o'clock. I didn't even get to what I was going to cover. I'll pick it up on Wednesday. Tomorrow's with the ladies, and always enjoy that. And we're not the bee. uh, and that's so funny, isn't it, Guy? And Lauren, y'all, that's that you've watched the series, because what does oh, Zeus's wife, Helena, um, that's what she does to, well, primarily the women that Zeus screws, because she said, I ain't gonna have any more children. So she turns them into bees. It's amazing. Well, okay, folks. Hera, thank you, Gaia. How's Paul, by the way? How you doing, Paul? So, Hera, thank you. Yeah, she had enough of it. She said, every half-breed you've done, Zeus. Because if you look at it, Jesus as a half-breed. But as Hera said, every one of them are a pain in the ass. They're all messed up. I don't know. I don't know. All right. Let's see. Lady Ellie says, I hope a female never becomes president. We can wake up one morning, look at that red button, and push like the. Well, it's true, isn't it? Isn't that how it's written? Hell hath no scorn, and hell hath no fury as a woman scorn. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Gaia. Sounds good. All right, folks. I love this. This is a place where intellectuals come. I don't know if we have any of it right. We may have it all wrong, and we may have it all right. We may have portions of it, but it is damn stimulating. And it is what growth comes from. And it's because of y'all. Thank you. I so much appreciate y'all, every one of you. Thank for hitting the like button. Make sure to make comments. Going to have some guests coming on tomorrow with Ryder. I'm going to be getting back with a couple of people, and I think you're going to enjoy some of these. Going to have get it working at a time for an individual that does a channeling of Saint Germain. So I think that's going. Preliminal, thank you, everyone. Much love to you. Bless the government system. Really messed up. Yeah, it is messed up. I'll tell you. It's like this, I made the comment that, the political party has become a cult. It hasn't become one, someone pointed out. It started out as one. You're right. And look what we are, where we are now. Super Savvy, how are you? Hey, will you write a book? I could. Boy, could I. I've got a number started. Yeah, who knows? Maybe that day will come. All right, everybody. Much love. Thank you for hitting the like button on the way out. Leave a comment. If you disagree, love it. That's cool. Your opinion is just as valid as the rest of ours. And in fact, that's what makes the spice so good, is the fact that we have so many different variations of opinions. It's wonderful. Except for when you folks that, and it's not this group, but, when we get the zealots in here. Wow, I'm about Jesus. Well, good for you. I'm glad to hear that. But that's your opinion. You know, others have their opinion, you know, and I'll end it with this. Fuck the gods. That's all I got to say. All right. See y'all tomorrow with the ladies. And in the meantime, keep it real, keep it honest, and make it always to be in love. That's the key. Thank you.